Well, welcome you folks. We're delighted to welcome you to our Utah Valley Technology and Genealogy Group meeting. This is the second Saturday of the month. Today is the 14th of January of 2023, and I'm Don Snow. I'm here in Provo, and we have online with us our speaker, James Tanner. He's here in Provo also at his office or his program, his home, and Gerhard Roof, RUF, is our president of the UV Tag group, and he's in Orem, which is right next door to Provo. We have people online from various places around the country, and we're delighted to welcome anybody else that's online that's joining us on Facebook or on Zoom. If you're a member of the UV Tag group, you can watch on Zoom, and then it's a little more interactive than it is on Facebook. Wherever you're from, we would appreciate you just indicating where are you watching this from. We're interested to know how far we're reaching and what's happening in different parts of the world, because we used to be only here in Provo. Now we're remote, and we're only doing these remotely. We may go back to in-person meetings, but that may be sometime in the future. So we're remote, and we're reaching more people now worldwide. We're delighted to have you with us. And we usually start with a prayer. And so I will offer that prayer myself right now. Our Heavenly Father, we are grateful to be here together today. We appreciate the technology which allows us to be together and to learn and to talk to each other and to understand what's happening with family history and genealogy and just our families in general. We are grateful for the opportunities that we have. We're grateful for the program that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has set up so that it'll help us so much. We're grateful for James Tanner, who's willing to take his time and provide us with information, and since he's so well known and so understanding of things that are going on. We pray for the Spirit to be with us now, and that the technology will work well, and that we'll understand and we'll be able to communicate. And we do this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you. Now we'll introduce our speaker. As I mentioned, if you are a member of UV Tag, you've probably already received or can get to the blog, which is just do a Google search for UVTAGG space blog, and you'll get our blog. That's where our monthly press releases go, and you can subscribe on there if you want to, so that you receive those via email. If you are a member of the group, which is only $15 a year, you receive our monthly newsletter. And that's we have a wonderful newsletter that Marilyn Thompson edits for us. And that comes out done via email, and it's already been mailed out for this time. If you don't want a sample copy of that, there's a place to click to ask for a sample copy on there. That's enough, I think, of the commercials for today. We're delighted to have James Tanner as our speaker today. James is well known. Many of you, if you've been involved with family history for any length of time, you've seen his name around. He gives talks everywhere you can think of. He lives here in Provo, and he teaches at classes at the BYU Family History Center. He teaches at Roots Tech. He teaches at every conference you can think of he's involved with, and he's well known, and we're delighted that he would take time to speak to our group. He's an attorney by trade, and he also runs some blogs. He's a professional photographer as well, and he's the blogger of Genealogy Star. There's a link to that on the blog if you want to click to it, or just search for Genealogy Star, James Tanner, and you'll find it. He's going to talk to us today about new technologies that are available in family history. Now he'll be speaking from now until about 11 a.m. It's 10 a.m. Utah time right now. He'll speak till about 10:05 or so. He'll speak till about 11, and then there'll be a short break, and then he'll do a class afterwards on correctness of your genealogy. And both these topics are excellent topics for us. And if you're watching on Zoom, just stay on Zoom at the break. And if you're watching on Facebook, you'll have to log off and then log back on to attend the class. James, let's turn the time over to you, and I will mute myself and turn my camera off, and we'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Okay, so we're going to talk today about new technologies that will aid you in finding your ancestors. And I work on this off and on over time. And just in the time that I've been doing this preparing for this particular presentation, right before we started, I had to add 2 new technologies. So you have to watch this kind of constantly, because there may or may not be something new when you wake up tomorrow morning. The best way to get started, of course, is just to keep a track of and read a little bit. It helps also to read general technological news, because that will often very directly affect genealogical research. Of course, some things never change, and they never seem to change, but technology is not one of those things. It actually changes considerably and frequently. And we have adapted to that. Probably one of the most obvious changes that we've had over the last couple of years is this right here, that we're presenting a class across the internet to whoever wants to log in and watch, and that the number of people often is very much greater than we would ever have in a in-person class, even at a conference. It's not unusual now for the BYU Family History Library, where I volunteer as a missionary, to have within 24 hours of putting a video up, of having over 1,000 views. And I can tell you for sure that we've never had 1,000 people show up for a class at the BYU Family History Library, at least in the last 8 or 9 years. So I guess it's important for us, because some of these things, some of these changes directly impact the availability, the usability, and the amount of information and records and documents and such that we can access for doing genealogical research. So we can get right into what's happening. The kind of point out, so we get a perspective here, some of the things that we didn't have 60 years ago. And I'm not going to read down through this list, and certainly I'm not going to comment on every single one of them, but I think some of them are pretty interesting. I guess from my personal standpoint, of course, microprocessors and computers and desktop computers have probably had the longest impact on my life, since I've been involved with them for the last 30 plus years. Cell phones, I think the smartphones with cameras have revolutionized many things, and we'll talk about that in a little while, about how it impacts genealogy. GPS, probably something else that we use so commonly now. Anytime we're going someplace that's unfamiliar, I can remember the times we were lost and we're pulling out paper maps at the side of the road to try to figure out where we were. And that has long passed in most cases, because we simply have to look at our phone and see exactly where we're located and where we want to go. So, of course, we could talk about this for a very long time, and we don't need to. But what did we have back then? If you'll recognize this, if you've lived any length of time in genealogy, these are paper records on family group records and pedigree charts. And we had a lot of paper, and some of us still have a lot of paper. So paper records are, they're still here. There's still things that we're working through. We have boxes and boxes of old records and documents down in our basement. This last year or so, we've started very, very consistently working on reducing that number and digitizing those documents, and those that are already digitized, making sure that the ones that are needful are put online on Family Search Memories, and the others are either preserved in some way, or in our case, we're distributing them out to each of our children in a flash drive. We copy. This last year, we sorted out all the documents, and the documents that we had sorted, we put on a flash drive and sent off to our children. We plan on doing that every year until we get through with the entire pile of records. So some of us still have a lot of paper, and some of us are still involved in paper, but that's something that's not going to continue too far into the future. I think that from the standpoint of the basis for our research in genealogy, which of course is historical records, the first great impactful dictology was microfilm, but microfilm has some really quite a few limitations. The biggest limitation, of course, of microfilm was that you had to be in a place that had a microfilm, not only had the microfilm, but had a microfilm viewer. So that caused me, as many other people, to make a trek to the now Family Search Library in Salt Lake City to view the microfilm. And so this is a technology that has really revolutionized how we do genealogy. Today, sitting in my home, I have literally billions upon billions of documents that I can research and use, and actually copy and put into either my own files or upload to, once again, Family Search Memories or some other place where I can have people view those documents. So this really has changed the workflow, has changed everything that we do as genealogists. And then adding to that, the kind of the real advance when you have digitized documents, that's fine. They're out there digitizing, but we're here and we find records, and we need to be able to digitize those records. And it's been available, digital cameras have been available for a long time, but only in the last few years have they incorporated the digital camera into a telephone. So when you have a phone in your hand, like that phone, you can use that to take pictures. And then not only can you take pictures from your phone, but with the app for Family Search Memories, it's one of many, you can upload those pictures directly to Family Search as you're using your phone. And nearly all of us who have a phone carry it with us a considerable part of the day. And anytime we're in a position where we would be doing some research or having research opportunities, I was always taking a camera with me, but now I don't even have to think about it because I've got my phone in my pocket, and then I can walk in and do everything I need to do. Plus the fact that this phone is now a full-blown, very advanced and very powerful computer. And so many of the things that I needed to use another, like my laptop or another computer for, are also kind of have imploded into this device. And so we're basically changing the way, not only our way of accessing documents is changing, in addition to the vast amount of documents that have now been digitized. So going into a library, it's interesting because when I go up to the Salt Lake Library, if I get there early enough before it opens for a few minutes early, I'm always interested to see all these people with their suitcases, rolling briefcases or suitcases full of documents and things. And I realized that I have all that connection. Everything that I need is on my phone. All the documents that I would have created. And if people try to give me paper, I generally, if they do, I say, sorry, I don't do paper. But if I don't, if I do have to take the paper, then often I will then digitize that paper and put it on my phone. So then I have access to the document without having to keep track of another piece of paper. So this is kind of the drift of what kinds of things are happening. One of the things that we need to know about is that once again, these historical images. And here on Family Search, we see there's a place where we can go. It's under the Search tab, and it's called Images. And those images are basically available to anyone who is registered on Family Search. But this little counter here on that Explore Historical Images section is hovering right around 5 billion images. And these are the ones that are in this image group. And what many people probably don't know, and you should look more into this subject, I can't go into it in depth today, but you should be aware that this images section contains all the images on Family Search, some of which are not in the catalog and not indexed. So this is a place where we can explore additional documents that have been scanned in. I also get numbers from other websites all the time about their images, and Ancestry, Family, Find My Past, and My Heritage, for example, are adding a tremendous number of images. In the last year, for example, My Heritage, in their recent report, indicated that they had added 2.5 billion images in 1 year to their collections. And I would assume that that's pretty consistent with previous years. And what we'll probably see in 2023 is an additional 2.5 or so billion images added to My Heritage. It's growing very, very rapidly. So here's, for example, from the collection on Family Search, these are the uncatalogued and unindexed records from Sweden. And there's 121,156 of these collections of this list of records of these records in this group of records. And what you see here is the number of images that are going in. Now, where did this come from? Well, Family Search has missionaries out digitizing records around the world. And this really didn't slow down, even though you would think it would have because of the pandemic. It did not slow down significantly during the pandemic. It merely changed which records they were going to be able to access and do. But basically what happens here is that each week, or whatever time period they're set up on, the people who are digitizing the records then send those records to Salt Lake City to be put onto the FamilySearch.org website. And what you see here on the image count is basically 1 week or so of the records that have been added to this collection. And these come in, and you can see on the right-hand side that they came in 2018. You can see when these records come in, and the counter that was going up is indicating the number that are coming in every day. So you're going to find newer and newer records here. And so one of the things about the Family Search website is that you need to dig into these records and these images, because there's records that you may never have seen and did not even know existed, because either they're new or they're kind of hidden away in a sense in this images collection of records. So these are the kinds of technologies now that enable us to move ahead with records. So now we have, in my opinion, another mega website for genealogy. This has been here for many years, at least 10 or more years, that the Internet Archive has been gathering information. And this one website is starting to leverage to making research here almost mandatory. It's hard to see this, all of the information that's on the startup screen here, but if you right at the top, it says search on the Wayback Machine of 771 billion web pages. And what that means is that they back up a large portion of the internet periodically 3 or 4 times a month, about once a week, for all billions of websites, millions of websites, and they put that information and store that information here on this website. In addition to that, and what's the most important part of that, is that they have increased this. They have been consistently increasing the number of books. And this is rather new number. This is just in the last day or two that I put this number in, and it's about 36.5 million books. Now, compare that to one of the largest library, that's supposedly the largest library, and that is the Library of Congress, and that which has about 28 million items, books primarily, but that's their collections. And what we're looking at here is a library that's significantly larger than the Library of Congress, completely searchable. Every word in the books is searchable on this website. And the question always comes up, well, what happens? You know, this is like the books on Google, the books on Family Search, the books on other websites. Well, what happens when the book is copyright protected? It'll come up like on Google Books, it'll come up and tell you it's copyright protected. Well, on archive.org, the difference here is this is a library, and copyright protected books and this are negotiated and available to check out on the archive.org. So you can go into this once you register. It's completely free, no charges at all, no premium version, nothing like that. You go in here and register. You are available to look at essentially all 36 million plus books that are sitting there and do research here on into this huge library. One key about the archive.org, you can search within the program itself from its website. So you can search the information here, but it's a little complicated. But everything in this website is also searchable by Google. So they've made it completely available. So when you do this, if you are searching for any kind of information, let's say you're searching for your great-grandfather's name and he lived in Missouri. You generally do a Google search for his name in Missouri and maybe put in a year. Well, add archive.org to that search as one of the search terms, and it will search the archive.org first, and you'll have a list of books that refer to that particular person. And I have found this to be indispensably useful when I've been doing research in New England and historically back in any of the states of the United States. County histories, genealogy material. There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of books that would be useful to genealogists here directly, not including all the other materials out there that could be used to find out information about your ancestors and where they lived and the times they lived. So when you understand that the technology that we started, when you talk about, oh yes, we've got computers, oh yes, we've got the internet, oh yes, we've got smartphones, oh yes, we've got all these little things. This is kind of cumulatives, but then what happens is the implementation of all that information when it goes into like this humongously large website that has well over 700, almost 800 billion items of research interest. So And I've been focusing here on the books, but they have videos, they have audio files, they have concert files, they have old TV shows, old radio shows, they have just anything that they can digitize will be put onto this website. Any type of media out there eventually ends up here. And this is the place where you can get the most information about what you're doing when you're online and looking and searching. And plus, once you're there in archive.org, you find the material. Any books that are out of copyright or not subject to any restrictions, you can download the entire book if you wish to do so, and then use it on your computer. And then you have that as a reference. You don't have to check it out or read it online or anything. And you can get a full text version, or you can get a PDF version. And then there's all of these different download options. And that would be one whole file of this book, or in the case of JPEGs, four files. So this is kind of the interesting type of things that we're finding when we look past just the kind of the more visible edge of the technology. So here's the up close, in case you can't read it on your monitor. This is these are the different types of images that you can download from a lot of the books. Not all the books have this download possibility. The ones that are copyrighted, you can read them online, but you can't download the information. So here's an example of borrowing a book on archive.org. This is a book that's currently being sold, and it's the history of the African Americans who left the South between around 1915 up to 1970, when 6 million of those people left the South. If you'd like more information about that, I'm doing a live presentation on this subject, and have 6 videos that will be on the Roots Tech website once Roots Tech is here in March of 2023. See here, you can borrow this for 1 hour, but if no one else checks it out, you can just keep renewing your loan until you get through using the material. So here's the borrow for 1 hour tab. One thing that you may or may not realize is that you can record oral histories on your phone. There are a lot of programs that will let you, or apps for your smartphone that will let you record audio files. Family Search Memories has an audio file capability. You can upload an audio file once you have that recorded to Family Search. They have a limit on the size of the file, which generally limits the audio file to a certain number of minutes, 10 or so minutes of recording. MyHeritage, that I've quoted here or shown here, will let you do audio recordings. And as far as I know right now, they don't have a time limit. They may have a file size limit, but I haven't seen anything that would indicate that that's the case either. So one thing that you can do is share those audio files so that they're not lost when you lose your phone, or when people can no longer access your computer equipment. So this is another step forward. So it is expanding. We can also do that with video files. Now, video files are a little more complex, and Family Search does not take video files for upload. Some of the other companies are starting to consider doing that, but the problem, of course, is privacy and inappropriate videos. And it takes real time to review a video. So basically, that makes it very difficult for those things to be reviewed by the websites. But on the other hand, you can always upload videos to YouTube, considering the the appropriateness of their guidelines, and to many other places where they can be shared. So video recordings can be shared. And my children have their own YouTube channels, and they put their videos up on the YouTube channel so that their family members can view their videos. Here's Family Search Memories. This is that I've mentioned already a couple of times, and here's what happens on your iPad or your iPhone, and you can start the recording right there, and basically the microphone's on your iPhone, and if you're going to interview somebody or talk to somebody directly or ask for a story or information, basically you can just record it and use that for purposes of uploading. Now, if you are a little bit concerned and you want to be able to edit the files, digital recording devices, little recorders are fairly inexpensive, and they create what's called an MP3 file, which can then be uploaded to a computer and to memories. And those files, with any number, there's a number of programs online, some of them are free, that will let you edit an audio file. So you can take out sections that don't apply, or dead zones, or anything that you want to do to edit those audio files. So there's more technology here that can be explored about how you can actually provide that kind of a service. And what we're doing here today is just an illustration of what happens, because these are being recorded, these classes are being recorded, and they're going to be available from UVTag when they process them and put them up on their website for their members. So this is the very kind of a preservationist type of technology. Now, speaking of preservation, you can digitize practically anything. You may not recognize all those machines, but there's digital machines for digitizing photographs, flatbed scanners. There's a high-speed scanner there. It's a Canon scanner. There's a book scanning device. There's an 8mm and super 8mm movie scanner. There's a slides box for taking a photo box for taking photos. There's a Sony cassette recorder, and there's others. These happen to be machines that are available for patrons of the BYU Family History Library in Provo, Utah, and for free to use during the time that the library is open. So these are there's just a lot of ways to transfer whatever media you have, whether it be paper or film or recordings or whatever it is, and bring those into a digital format that can then be shared online or shared privately on flash drives or whatever other way to distribute those recordings. By the way, this is a video that was done to show how this particular scanner works, the Epson photo scanner. It's a high-speed scanner, and it takes smaller format photographs, paper photographs, but it'll pull those through fast enough that you can do 200 or 300 in an hour or two, so, or even more. And it's amazing technology, and the quality is excellent. This video I put up on YouTube for the BYU Family History Library. It's another BYU Family History Library video on the BYU Family History Library YouTube channel. And the whole thing, the whole video, all of the images, and there's the video portions of this own video, the action portions of the video and things that are incorporated were all made. All of those were made with an iPhone camera. So this is the kind of way that even though you say, okay, you can use your iPhone to take notes in the library, but you could also use your iPhone to produce a video, or and there are movies, video programs built in, basically available for the iPhone camera. So you can do a whole video and edit the video and then distribute it up through YouTube or whatever you want to do right on your iPhone camera. So this kind of technology changes the distribution of the information in such a dramatic way that you really, as time goes on and as more of this technology becomes available, it really helps me. I always am reevaluating how I'm doing things. And over the past few years, as I've been doing webinars and now concentrating primarily on videos, I have, my way of doing the videos has evolved. The programs I'm using have evolved. Everything's is going through changes, and will probably continue to change as long as I'm able to continue doing all this stuff. So first of all, here's probably one of the things that will be is slowly becoming evident, slowly in relative terms, meaning over the past few years, but is now accelerating into, as they sometimes say, warped speed. It's moving so rapidly that it is going to be very, very interesting how this works. So this last year, the 1950 census became available after waiting the time period for privacy reasons. And one of the things that happened with that introduction of the 1950 census was an agreement between Family Search and Ancestry.com. And Family Search and Ancestry had developed handwriting recognition technology. Well, probably either developed it or bought it, or got it or purchased it. But regardless, what happened is that Ancestry ran the entire 1950 census through the process of looking at it with this artificial intelligence, optical character recognition, and handwriting recognition program. And then using their volunteers from Family Search volunteers reviewed the accuracy of the artificial intelligence product. In other words, the handwriting recognition. I did a lot of that as it was going along. And I can tell you that the handwriting recognition program by Ancestry was at least as good as any person trying to decipher somebody's handwriting. It obviously could not read some handwriting, but neither could I or anyone else, I assume, because there was some that was just totally unreadable. But in those cases where there was some question about whether it was accurate or not, it was almost very heavily in favor of the handwriting recognition program being used by Ancestry. They were getting it right, even when there was kind of a fuzzy area of where it might be right and might not be right. Now, what's happening with this? What's happening with this is that the artificial intelligence and handwriting recognition is going to revolutionize, and is in the process of doing that, how when records are acquired, like the process that's happening with Family Search on their digitization projects. So here we have these people out there, the missionaries primarily out there, digitizing records, and those records are going into Family Search, and they're really just sort of piling up because the process of indexing them and cataloging them is much, much slower than the process of acquiring them. And now we're basically got part of that process accelerated into a very high level. And that what happens now is that you can basically take millions of documents. Here's the link, by the way, to this particular article, and it'll be in the video and available. But that article was just an illustration. There's nothing in there that's crucial to understanding that particular subject. So when the census goes through, for example, it took only about 6 to 8 months to completely index the census. Now, the other websites who have the census, including Family Search, are still spending time doing the indexing. And to the extent that they have to complete the indexing, it's still going on now, months and almost a year, going into almost a year since the census was released. So just in that one project, the time was compressed considerably. But what is happening across the board is that Family Search is using artificial intelligence and handwriting recognition in OCR to increase the number of documents being indexed. Now, in the last very short period of time, a lot of people are involved in the indexing program, and the indexing program for Family Search, basically people who want to do records in the United States. In the last couple of weeks, they found out when they go on, there is only like one batch available. There's nothing available. And why isn't it available? Because the records that they have that are processed to the point of being indexed have already been indexed by artificial intelligence. And so as time goes on, artificial intelligence is taking over doing indexing in South America and Italy and Spain and places like that, and other places in Europe. And eventually, indexing is going to change into reviewing artificial intelligence reading. It's not going to be an initial program. It'll be something that reviews what has already been done by the computers. So that's happening, and it's happening this week. So you can get on and check if you want to. Record hints or matches, another great technology. All of the larger genealogical websites have record matches or hints, and these help you find the records. And this is done because the documents have been digitized, the indexes are available, and now artificial intelligence, character recognition, and handwriting recognition is enabling these records to the websites to give you suggestions. And they vary in accuracy, but they're extremely helpful. And they can basically help you get through most research. And my impression is back until the early 1800s, you're really getting a lot of benefit from having your website, your family tree on all of the different websites, because they all supply different records and different record hints and record matches. Of course, another thing that's happened as a result of all of this other technology is that we have more and more records that are available. In other words, these records were always available. They're historical records, and they were sitting in libraries and archives across the world, and only available if you went to the archive or library and spent the time to dig through their paper records and their catalog and things to try and find something that was pertinent. And there are those of us who have spent those hours and weeks and months in the Family Search Library up in Salt Lake City. So here we are with an example of a Danish-American museum that has resources, including genealogical resources. And that is the kind of thing that is being changed constantly. And one of the things that's being helpful is that as time goes on, there are a lot more people, a lot more of these institutions that recognize that it's in their interest to support the genealogical community. I mentioned that you could read books online. Well, finding those books might be a challenge. So here's a website called WorldCat. This isn't a particularly new technology in that sense, but what is new is how they're using that technology. A WorldCat is the catalog of all catalogs. It's worldcat.org, WRLDCAT.org. And it is a catalog to catalogs. It thousands and thousands of libraries across the world have put their entire catalogs into this one website. Now, what's happened is that there's some things that are now developed because of the technological change. In this case, when I found this book, which is the history of Old Fort Johnson, and it's just an example book, over here on the right-hand side, it says access free for open access, which means that you can click on that button and it will take you directly to archive.org that I've already talked about. And here's the book that you can just start reading, or you can download. So you have a tremendous amount of information here. And WorldCat gives you the connection directly to this book. In addition, it connects you to digital copies that may be available in and all across the internet. So rather than going in and trying to find the book and then trying to find out where library it's in and find out whether it's been digitized and then find out whether it's available, you go to WorldCat. WorldCat tells you not only has the book been digitized, but it gives you a link directly to the digital copy in a lot of cases. So this is this technology, this has only happened in the last month or so that I've noticed it, because I'm pretty much on WorldCat very, very frequently. And Google Translate, this is invaluable. These are the languages that Google Translate supports. You may not be aware, but you can also use Google Translate on your phone. And there's an optical version. So if you use your camera phone and you point it at a sign or a document, let's say you pull a document up on your computer and you can't read it because it's in whatever language, Dutch or Norwegian or something, and you need to have it translated. So you just pull up your smartphone, look at it on the screen with a camera, and if it's recognizable by Google, then a little icon appears. You can then tap that and Google will translate what you have right there on your computer screen, or if you're traveling or whatever. And these are technologies that you might think, well, you know, how do I do that? That may be complicated. Well, the answer is yes, some of them are kind of interesting to try to get into, but once you figure it out, it all of a sudden becomes an indispensable tool. Obviously, the companies also are developing, the genealogy companies are using genealogical DNA testing. The DNA testing just becomes more and more accurate over time. I know if you've been watching your ethnicity estimate, if you've had a DNA test, you'll know that it's changed over time. And this is the latest one from MyHeritage. It turns out that I inexplicably have Latvian, Lithuanian, and Belarus up there in the Northern European area. And then I have Southern European and the Middle East, and I have no idea where those connections are. It just boggles my mind that I'm related to all these people. And it turns out, if I look at their list, I actually am probably related to somebody in almost every major country of the world, which highlights the fact that DNA is more universally. Now, MyHeritage has advanced technology for photo enhancing repair and colorization. On the left, you see the original photo, and then you see the enhanced and colorized version of that same photo that basically is part of a subscription to MyHeritage. And then you can also animate those videos, those pictures right there on there. And so there's an animation of the picture from MyHeritage. when they say they repair or enhance the photos, this is the photo on the left is a common problem of the chemicals used in the photographic process have deteriorated over time. It's run through nothing else. It would just ran through the enhancement process on MyHeritage, and the one on the right is the enhanced photo. So this is an amazing technology also. Another technology that's very useful, a little bit less obviously useful, is MyHeritage and other websites that have put all of your location information up on a map and then let you zoom in and look at the relationships. Now, I automatically plot various relatives on maps, but this is done automatically. It may be a convenience, but it's also something that shows you that you may have a lot of relatives in different parts of the country, and maybe they're not really related. Maybe you've just picked up somebody that's an outlier and not really a infant. The other kinds of technologies are based on DNA, is something like Ancestry's through lines. Their through lines technology shows you all the people who are related to you. And this is genealogical support for each of these relationships. So if you hover over, you'll see how many DNA matches of people that there are who are related directly to that person because they have that person in their family line, and their DNA matches with others that also have that person. Then you can do it by parent matches. In other words, now you can see which part of your DNA comes from your father and which part comes from your mother. This is helpful, particularly if you have a missing relative in that category. If you have an unknown father or you have an unknown mother, or basically you're not knowing you're adopted or you're foundling or whatever. Oh, now to finalize this up a bit. This past week, there was an official announcement. Some of us have known about this coming for probably the last couple of years or even longer, but family history centers are now officially family search centers. And the logo on the Family History Library in Salt Lake City is now the Family Search Library. And you may have heard me use the new term, Family Search Library in Salt Lake City. And so all of these family history centers across the United States and across the world, there are over 5,000 of them, will have their name changed to Family Search Centers. And by the way, the libraries will not change. They've always been Family Search affiliate libraries. So those are the ones that you'll see primarily. Let's see where we're going. So what will happen in the future? What will we be looking at? Most of the technologies that I've talked about will be tremendously expanded. You'll see things that now you can't do that are difficult will become much easier to incorporate. But with the rapid advancement of handwriting recognition, for example, and the other technologies that are coming, how we do our genealogy and the ease of doing the genealogy when we have lots of records will be greatly expanded. It would be wonderful, for example, if all the records on Family Search were indexed completely and you could search and automatically go to that document. Then that would be just an amazing upgrade. But right now it's in the process and it's starting to happen. Okay, well, thanks for watching. And we'll stay tuned for another 10 minutes or so. I left a couple of minutes here for questions. So if we have any questions, I'd be glad to field those from wherever. If they're coming in, you might need to, like on Facebook, you might need to put them in the chat or the comment section or here in the chat.
Go ahead, Carol.
Okay, sorry, I'm on mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, let me check really quick. I think we just had if the question if the presentation was being recorded for later use, and you'd answered that. I don't think there's anything else.
There was a comment from Michelle where she said on AI, how surprising it was to see AI fail to recognize sections of the most legible printed text / names, yet do a good job with barely legible print. You have any comment on that, James?
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised, like I did when I've been watching AI development over quite a few years, long time. OCR was something that I was very interested in and began using years and years ago. Both technologies are now kind of, OCR is kind of like you say, old hat. It's just assumed that you have a text document, you can turn it into a digitized document. You know, if you have a paper document, you can turn it into a text document as quickly as you can, as you want to with your phone or scanning it or whatever. Handwriting has always been the, kind of the unreachable goal. The BYU Family History Technology Lab has been working on it for years and years, handwriting recognition. A few years ago, before the pandemic, before we kind of lost contact with everybody, they had already achieved up to 95% accuracy in transcribing handwriting done in Old German back in the 1800s. And that's about the most difficult one that I can think of out there for handwriting recognition. And so we knew that technology was coming, but the rest of the implementation was difficult. Now that we have a demonstration of the handwriting recognition by Ancestry in the 1950 census and being so accurate, we will probably see a tremendous amount of that online. When you're on Family Search, what you might see is that says that the index or transcription of this document has been done by a computer, and they're asking for input for corrections as you go along, which they've been doing on Ancestry now for a long time. So we'll be seeing more of that, and I get a list weekly from Family Search that tells me when how many records have been indexed in that week. And when I see numbers going up into the millions, I know they're doing with handwrite recognition. They're not physically looking at 1 million documents in a week.
Thank you. Carol, did you note where people said they were watching from?
Yes, we had some from California, Colorado, Colorado, California, Texas.
Yeah,
a couple people had commented, and then one, Marion Jones said, lots of great information. Thanks, James Tanner. It really was really good. Really appreciate it.
We appreciate your presentation. That's wonderful. Lots of good information. Now, for those of you who are watching on Zoom, you just stay on Zoom because we'll be back on Zoom in a few minutes. If you're on Facebook, you'll need to log off and then log back on to get back on to hear his class. His class will be starting in another 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. And it'll be on making sure that our records are correct. And there'll be lots of good information on that too. We really appreciate you, James. You've done a wonderful job for us, and we're grateful for you taking the time to be with us today. So we'll log off now from the class. Thanks. Bye.